Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Hearthstone Legendary Series. I'm Cameron Camdoza Reed, joined by TJ Azimo Cutie Sanders. You know, I didn't know until today that Neil Armstrong is wearing Plantronics gear.
Did not. Did not know that either.
But I do know now, and you should wear Plantronics gear too, because it will literally take your game and elevate it to the moon.
Yeah. Plantronics stepping up their commercial game.
Yes, absolutely.
For the Legendary Series, that's for sure.
Now, back to a little bit more of a serious tip. We've got our winners match coming up. The winner of this one is guaranteed to go to the semifinal, and it's going to be Lemurian versus Tom. Now, I wanted to ask you some questions specifically about Lemurian.
Okay.
Because Tom, I think we're all a little bit more familiar with. We saw him at BlizzCon, etc. But Lemurian had an impressive win, but at the same time, it almost seemed like it wasn't that impressive because he made some pretty weird plays.
Yeah, he got fortunate with the matchups. His decks matched up really nicely with Kalento's decks in that first round. He did make a few glaring mistakes, but other than that, he played pretty solidly. But I think this is going to be the real test because, of course, we mentioned earlier, consistency is the real key for Hearthstone. We just don't know enough about this guy to really tell yet if he's tried and true, fantastic Hearthstone player. So his decks aren't going to match up quite as well against Tom's decks. Right off the bat, it's going to be Freeze Mage, I believe, was what Tom had versus Oil Rogue.
That's right.
And, I mean, that can be pretty dangerous. But at the same time, Rogues can just sort of have breakout wins against Freeze Mage. If they get really sticky creatures early on and have a big oil plus flurry turn. Sometimes they can kill Freeze Mage before they get rampant, before they get going. Right.
I want to say it's a matchup that it absolutely can go either way.
Yeah.
You know, I want to say, though, that I almost think it favors the Rogue a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the Rogue can pop the block way before maybe even he draws into a block. You know?
Then he's dead.
And then what happens then? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, it looks like he's going to pop the block this turn.
Wait.
Oh, wait, he didn't have a block.
You mean I dealt lethal damage to a mage and he didn't survive?
Yeah.
What is that madness?
Yeah. And a lot of their damage comes from their hand instead of from their board.
Right.
Which traditionally, freeze mages are great against things that do damage from the board.
Right.
Because they have ways to manipulate the board with freezes. So they have to draw into those threats, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, say you're playing the freeze mage, you're at 17 health, just for an example, and you've already got an ice block up. You're feeling pretty strong, and then all of a sudden the rogue comes out with his insane Tinker's Turn.
Yeah.
Your ice block is popped, and you don't top deck your next one, or you don't have a way to kill a mad scientist off in time, then, you obviously probably lose the game.
It's a delicate balance, though, at the same time, because also you have to make sure that you don't pop the block with the mage having too much health left.
Sure. Yeah, you need to get him as close to 1 as you can.
Which can be hard with big Blade Flurry turns. So you have to set up like a Blade Flurry, and then you re-dagger and just poke him.
Right.
For the last 1 damage.
All right, so now in this matchup, what are you looking for your mulligans if you're the freeze mage?
Card draw.
Just draw?
Just draw. You want your secrets as well, but most of the time, you're not going to really be having to deal with the early board as much. So you really don't need to have your freeze spells early. Like against aggro classes, you want the Doomsayers, the Frost Novas.
Right.
But against this, you just want straight up, you want that card draw. And he doesn't get it. He does have Ice Berry, which will block some damage, but you really need to make sure that you get as deep into your deck as quick as possible against the rogue.
All right, and probably just conserve the dagger charge at this point. But then again, what's he do on turn 3?
I say you attack, yeah.
Yeah, attack with it, because you're probably going to wind up hero powering anyway.
Yeah, there's always those games where people always say, I try and give people tips with Oil Rogue sometimes because I played it so much. I played it to like rank 250 legend last season when Oil Rogue was really popular. And they say the hardest part about Oil Rogue is when to hold that dagger charge and when to attack in the early game. And sometimes there's no right answer. Like sometimes it's, well, do you think you're going to draw into something next turn where you'll need that charge? And then there's sometimes where you'll be 1 damage off lethal at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And just attacking him once to the face
at
on
some
turn
point.
1 or 2 would have been the go. Would have been the lethal. So.
All right. So he's got all of the sort of setup cards But I don't know what he's going to prep into to get that Violet Teacher rolling.
Yeah.
I mean, another Deadly Poison? Maybe. I think you just put her down here and then
Just start
sort of,
whack in the face.
Just challenge him to have removal for her.
Yeah, well, Deadly Poison is it's not that valuable in this matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, you're going to be using it to go face anyway. Because,
Sure.
I mean, what kind of creature are they going to play that you're going to need the Deadly Poison? Doomsayer?
Yeah.
Loot Hoarder? Loot Hoarder, you can just breathe at a little bit too hard and it'll
knock him
it'll
right
die.
over.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, Loot Hoarder, I've been compared many times to the Loot Hoarder.
Oh, really?
On account of my...
look at that.
Yeah, look at him. Notice the similarity.
Mind if I roll need?
Mind if I roll need? Yeah, I'm pretty good at that too.
You even voiced it. Basically, they just made the card after you. You voiced it. They just took a picture of you. Had a what did they call it? Was a caricaturist?
Yeah.
A caricaturist?
Caricature artist, I believe. I think you're overthinking it.
Whatever.
All the same.
All
right.
They had one draw a picture of you with a box or whatever that is that the Loot Hoarder's holding, a chest. Present, who knows?
All right, so what's he going to get from the Loot Hoarder? Yeah, that seems probably like the best line of action right there.
Yeah, and he wants to play the ice block as well because that pretty much guarantees that he gets the second ice barrier.
Mm-hmm.
If he had played the Mad Scientist and done something else, there was a chance he could have gotten ice block with already an ice block in his hand. So
Right.
he's sort of removing the value from the Mad Scientist.
Yeah.
Instead of pulling a card from his deck, he's basically just removing or saving 3 mana from his hand, which isn't
Sure.
quite as good.
Right. Yeah, I always hate seeing secrets in my hand whenever I'm playing any deck that features the Mad Scientist.
Yeah.
It's always a total bummer for me.
Yeah.
So now, the Lemurian's already got a lot of damage.
Yeah, and you just start pushing for damage early with this deck, or against this matchup. So
No.
I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes all in.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what the Tinkers goes to.
Oh,
and a
gets the-
target that can hit immediately
What?
as well. Oh my goodness.
How much damage is
He's
this?
going to be able to eviscerate as well. So 16, 24,
Is that lethal?
28.
He can blade.
Oh my gosh. Hold on. So how much is the eviscerate for? It's
lethal. If he preps the eviscerate,
He's got
and then
the
attacks
block
with-
up.
Oh,
He's
okay,
got the
okay,
block
okay.
up.
Whew.
But he can get him to... Oh, he's going to hang on to the eviscerate. Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
I got really scared for a second there.
What a turn. Now, I mean, I would have rather seen the eviscerate there to
Yeah.
get him as close, like we were just talking about,
Yeah.
to that 1 health mark as possible
Yeah, because-
before you pop the block.
Because, well, no, he
And
also
what are
has
you
the
gonna-
ice barrier now. Because so
Mhm.
he has to, or he doesn't have to, but he wants to pop it with spells,
Right.
so that way he gets him closer.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, yeah, that's a great play, brings him low, but
Mhm.
he's got to get through. He's effectively at 14 health right now.
Right. With the
With
ice
the ice
block
block.
still up.
And he doesn't have card draw, so he's running out of damage. So it was exciting,
It was. That it definitely was.
but we'll see how actually effective it was. All right.
All right, I like this healing up that because it's basically going to force Fireball to remove it realistically.
Yeah. I don't think he wants. Yeah. I think he wants to wait. It's so hard. He wants to wait till he can pop the block or pop the barrier and the block on the same turn,
Right.
which is really hard.
Yeah.
Because-
Especially now that you've just done that incredible damage
Yeah.
turn already. Like that's already gone.
Yeah.
So now it's got to be this like sort of slow, steady damage probably.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to save back up to another huge hand of 6 cards or something with like a prep
Yeah.
sprint.
The good thing is, at this point, the mage is going to have trouble finding a turn once the block is popped to play the second block, while also playing the,
Mm-hmm.
playing like Alexstrasza or being able to pressure. Now, of course, there is always the chance with Freeze Mage that they can just kill you without that.
Yeah.
It's mostly only possible with Archmage Antonidas. If you Archmage Antonidas, get a bunch of fireballs, the next turn fireballs again, and then like a Pyroblast.
Mm-hmm.
But that's over a lot of turns. It's just the mana's more spread out.
I wonder if it would have been better there to just sort of stall by maybe just throwing an Ice Lance
Yeah.
the direction of the Violet Teacher there.
Yeah.
And hang on to those fireballs.
Well, I mean, effectively, that Ice Lance is going to turn into a fireball eventually anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
So, if he's confident that he's going to be able to get a good Archmage Antonidas turn, it really doesn't matter that much, and it's not as risky because he's going to have to deal with the Violet Teacher anyway.
Right.
But I see where you're coming from with that.
Well, looks like we'll probably wind up seeing another Violet Teacher thrown down here.
Yeah.
And probably, I want to say that I would just, excuse me, pop the block, or at least start swinging at his face. Just eviscerate before you swing at his face, so that there's nothing but a little bit of health and armor.
It's a delicate dance.
Yeah.
That he's playing here, because he sort of has to pop both of them on the same turn, or he risks him being able to, like, it could be a possibility of Alex Straussing himself with the block up still.
Yeah.
Which the rogue will almost certainly run out of damage if that's the case.
Okay, puts the Doomsayer out just to prevent him from playing
I like
anything.
This. Yeah. Yeah. Which is good. Oh, and he can't can't draw on the damage.
If he had spell damage, because he could have eviscerated for 4.
True.
And then if you had like Blood Mage Thalnos and Blade Flurry, that wouldn't pop the ice barrier.
Yeah, exactly. But you still have to find a way to kill him without touching him. Aha!
Oh man. Looks like he may. Okay. So we'll probably see a prep sprint here, and we'll see what he's able to pick up.
That was actually right on time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, depending on what he draws into here, he could actually do exactly what you're saying with. Oh.
Hey.
Yeah.
So he can absolutely pop the block right now, and he can pop it pretty effectively as well. He can get him pretty close.
Yeah, and he needs to sap this.
Yeah.
Or else there's. With the perfect cards, there's a potential for lethal.
So there's 13, so there's guaranteed 18 coming your way next turn.
Yeah, or like even just the 5 damage from the Archmage plus Blood Mage, Fireball,
it could be
Ice Lance. But he's going to use both Eviscerates. Now the next turn, SI7 agent doesn't pop armor either.
Yep, just combo anything to get him out there.
Yeah.
All right, so he does have the other ice block in hand already, which is the good news for Tom.
But he's got Azure Drake, Blade Flurry.
But yeah, how does he win the game at this point?
Yeah.
I guess you probably ice block and then throw down the Acolyte and ping him. Or do that first, you know. Eventually, I think the ice block has to get played, though.
Yeah. Emperor Thorson. This is a rough position, though.
Yeah, it really is.
Because he'll never really find a turn where he can live and put pressure.
So now the tricky thing, though, is that he's going to wind up getting back up to a nice health total again. If you wind up using the SI7 to pop the block, then you're down to actual physical damage at that point. Because both Eviscerates are gone.
Yeah.
Well, no. I guess next turn, presumably, he plays a minion of some sort.
You can just
and you just backstab it. Or, you even backstab your own.
Or sap anything.
Yeah. All right. Wow. So then it looked like for a minute he may have gone too hard too fast. Yeah. But it turns out that was probably the way to do it.
I mean, that's what I said. That's how you do it. There's no reason to hold on to those cards because you're never going to get more value out of it than he did right there. You're never going to get more damage out of it than he did right there. Because he had an Azure Drake on the board, so it made Blade Flurry do more damage.
Yeah.
He got fortunate with the oil going onto the Violet Teacher instead of one of the tokens, because that was 3 extra damage that he gained from that.
And the statistics of that were actually pretty good that it would have gone onto one of the tokens too. So he definitely took a huge risk there, wound up paying off, because I don't see any way for Tom to hang in this one.
No.
Not with well, so technically, if he fireballs the Azure Drake And then there's nothing on the board. Well, hold on. I guess you play the SI7 agent. Sap your SI7 agent.
No, you can't sap
You
your
can't
own.
sap your own, though. Yeah. Okay, so he puts the minion down, which opens up the combo. Yeah, he did have to.
No choice.
All right.
To make the read to not play minions, to not give him
Right?
a combo for an SI7 agent is
Pretty insane.
Next level.
All right, and so that's going to be GG, Game 1, Lemurian with the Oil Rogue, going up 1-0 over Tom.
Yeah, playing around the ice barrier really nicely there. Winning without even popping that second ice barrier.
Yeah, amazing, actually. Really, really high-level stuff there, which I think is great to see, especially considering that his last Oil Rogue game, you could even see it visibly on his own face, how upset he was at one of those plays he made.
Yeah, and I mean, Freeze Mage is sort of one of the most by-the-book matchups for both players. When you're playing as the Freeze Mage, there's almost always a best play. And when you're playing against a Freeze Mage, there's almost always a best play.
Right.
So it's like whether or not you have the experience playing against Freeze Mage is whether or not you do well against Freeze Mage.
Right, right.
And so it's just being in those situations and knowing when not to go ham, hold back, or like play conservatively. But most of the time against Freeze Mage, it's just you just got to go all out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, it's also becoming a little easier and easier these days to know exactly what secret it is.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking back to maybe the beta when it was, oh my gosh, it could be anything. I
would Google Paladin secrets whenever I played against a Paladin.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't know.
Yeah, it could be absolutely anything. But nowadays, it's pretty safe to say, like, if it's a mech mage, you see a snow chugger get put down on turn 2, then you see a secret on turn 3. It's okay. Yeah. That's a mirror entity. How do I play around this most effectively? Very rarely are you ever really surprised by what secret it is nowadays.
There was an interesting interaction where there was 1 week of competitive Hearthstone where Snipe came into the meta. Snipe is only good if your opponent doesn't expect you to play Snipe.
Right.
And when they don't expect you to play Snipe, it's amazing. Like what it was back in the Miracle Rogue days. A rogue or a hunter would just play Snipe on turn 4. Auctioneer would come down on turn 5, get sniped. There goes your miracle.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, rogues said, oh, well, hunters are playing Snipe. And then Snipe was never played again because people realized that Snipe was a card. And so it's one of those things that you can only put in your deck for like a week, and then you can't put it in your deck for like 6 months.
Right.
But I'm always waiting for that one player to bring it back.
Well, Tom is bringing back the Shaman. Now, earlier, it took him a little bit of effort to get the win with the Shaman, but he did wind up getting it.
Yeah.
And this time he's up against the Mage. Now, Lemurian's Mage was a mech Mage, correct? Or was it another Freeze Mage?
It was a mech Mage.
It was, right. Yeah.
Because I was expecting a Freeze Mage.
Because he had the game, too, where he chose not to put the Cogmaster down on turn 1, which led to a whole series of events.
He still won.
Still won the game, again.
But, I mean, he had... all his other decisions were good. Having both Fireballs and Frostbolt in your first 10 cards is pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
But, yeah, he sort of threw me for a loop when he played Mech Mage. But I think Mech Mage is just so strong. I think players are making mistakes by not playing Mech Mage.
Yeah.
Just because it's that powerful right now. Goblin Blast Mage is one of the strongest cards in the game. People complain about Dr. Boom, but Goblin Blast Mage, Mech Mage are almost always guaranteed to have a mech. You can play the game to where you're going to have a mech most games.
Yeah.
And 4 damage plus that 5/4 body for 4 mana is absurd.
So no big surprise by Lemurian's mulligan here. Now, what do you think? Obviously gets rid of Dr. Boom. Oh, he chooses to get rid of the Flame Tongue. I'm a little surprised by that.
Usually you won't be able to get a board against a Mech Mage. And so Flame Tongue Totem often says it's a dead card in your hand. Okay. Because usually they're going to have a strong turn 1 play with Clockwork Gnome, Cogmaster, Mana Worm. Your totems are just going to get stomped. And you won't have much room to utilize the Flame Tongue Totem to its full effect. So
I see. It just always feels like the most natural and satisfying follow-up. Whoa! Oh my gosh.
It took me a second to react to that because I was like, oh, just Tyrion doing Tyrion things.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, so before I was so rudely interrupted by Tyrion Bordering showing up to the party. Anyway, Flame Tongue Totem always feels like a really great follow-up to Feral Spirit. Like, I don't know what other follow-up to Feral Spirit.
Maybe a Tyrion?
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. See, but Feral Spirit trades evenly with a Spider Tank.
Yeah.
Like, and it also overloads you.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So you're basically effectively trading away mana to a Spider Tank who's more cost efficient than you. And in this case, he can just Frostbolt, Snow Chugger, and I mean that he doesn't have any plays next turn. He can Crackle.
Right. Well, he could coin puppies again.
Yeah.
Looking at his hand currently.
And then there's going to be a Tyrion.
Right.
And he doesn't have a Hex.
Now there's no way for him to know that.
And
you want to talk about next level reads like we were talking about last game.
There's like no downsides to playing a turn 5 Tyrion that came from an unstable portal.
Yeah.
He hexes it. That was what? Perfect. 7 mana that I used total. It wasn't even a card in my deck.
Right.
It was an unstable portal, which that could have been a novice engineer. Like, ridiculous.
So do you Frostbolt this or just put down your Annoyatron? You don't really have any mech synergies in your hand at this point. I feel like I'd Frostbolt it.
I'd Frostbolt it.
Yeah.
Annoyatron is usually used to protect high priority targets.
Yeah.
Annoyatron Snow Chugga is fantastic against like Warrior.
Sure.
Even Rogue, it's amazing. Usually, a lot of times you'll be forced to use a Sap against an Annoyatron just to remove a Snow Chugger.
Yeah.
So you can actually utilize your hero power.
All right. Are we going to see the greetings dropped after the turn 5 Tyrion?
I would say yes. But Goblin Blast Mage,
hello,
taking advantage of Goblin Blast Mage when you have mech on the board is always an enticing play as well.
Yeah, that's true. And the Shaman doesn't have any Hex. His best, he doesn't really have a very good way to deal with Tyrion. But he's going to save the surprise perhaps a little longer.
Ooh,
Just get that Blast Mage value while it's available and easy.
Blast Mage wasn't that effective. He wanted to either have 1 damage go on to the Feral Spirit or no damage or all damage.
Yeah.
He rolls a 6.
Nice crackle right there. Come on,
it's got to come.
He has to.
He might want to bait out a Hex first.
Oh,
but
yeah,
come on.
but really?
Like it wasn't. It's not even a part of your deck.
So the on-curve play was the Piloted Shredder.
Like bait out the Hex with the Tyrion for the Piloted Shredder.
Tom's reaction.
I guess that's karma.
Yeah, that top deck though.
Yeah.
See, he should have played it on turn 5 when it was on curve.
Yeah. Still though, you really can't expect anything less to happen.
Yeah.
To your unstable portal Tyrion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still a win in your book at that point.
Yeah. I mean, that came off the top. So if he's playing like super diligently, I suppose, he could probably safely play Archmage Antonidas there.
I was just thinking the same thing. Now that you've seen the Hex, and you did see, if you were, like you said, paying really close attention, it came off the top before it got pulled out of the hand.
Good players will play removal off the top regardless.
Oh, yeah, so they don't reveal.
But that's like just small nitpicking, and it's safer to get immediate value out of the Archmage when you can.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't have any spare parts yet. He hasn't gotten any of the cards that'll give him any of those. There's a Cogmaster. Doesn't do much. I think Fireball?
Yeah, got to.
Just Fireball the Elemental.
Yep. He needs to draw into some sort of spell. I wonder if he cut Clockwork Gnomes in order to make room for the Mana Worms. Because that 1-drop slot, you don't want to pack that too full. But then he has a lack of sort of spare part generators.
Yeah.
Unless he runs the Mechanical Yetis, which makes it so his Archmage Antonidas is less consistent. I actually don't like running Mana Worms in Mech Mage. I just prefer to have my only 1-drops being the Cogmasters and the Clockwork Gnomes. But to each his own.
Yeah.
He's in this tournament. I'm just casting
You're just casting.
My top finish in the Challenger Cup was top 64.
Hey.
Which is okay.
Yeah. That's not bad.
I'll slap that on my fridge.
Absolutely.
I ain't ashamed.
All right, so he's hanging on to the fireball and I think, this is probably the way to go, although he's going to be really weak to Lightning Storm right now. Because the worst feeling in the world when you're playing Mech Mage or any sort of a really aggressive deck is just running out.
Yeah.
Just having nothing left in your hand. It's all over.
Yeah.
And you're just playing for the top deck every time.
Yeah.
But realistically, your deck is not built to top deck.
Yeah, and you're staring at 11 damage on the other side of the board.
Yep.
Yeah, he just doesn't have spare parts to be able to combo this Archmage, and that's one of the drawbacks you get from playing those Mana Worms. I mean, we don't even know if he's playing Clockwork Gnomes or not, but
right.
I would have actually liked to see the Archmage Antonidas on curve on the turn 7 once he saw the Hex.
Mm-hmm.
Because he could have just chained Fireballs the next turn, Fireball.
Right.
Put him at what? He would have been at like 10 health.
Yeah.
With 2 Fireballs in his hand. I don't know.
All right, well, that was a devastating Lightning Storm, and now it's going to be really difficult for him to get back in. He almost has to put Antonidas down just as something to tempt that Elemental from getting too much more face damage.
Yeah. It's going to die because of second Flame Tongue Totem here.
Yeah.
And once Tom kills this, he's pretty much has the game in the bag.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's no Flame Strike in a Mech Mage, there's no Blizzard, there's no Frost Nova Doomsayer or something like that. All right, so going to 1-1 it looks like. Unless a miracle. Miracles can happen. We've seen it. Another Tyrion. Oh.
the Ironford Grizzly.
The Ironford.
Or as I like to call it, the poor man's Tyrion.
Always intimidating.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Well, he pings face and hope that, I don't know.
Man, at this turn, just throw down Neptulon and just build that lead to such an unreasonable level that even if the guy clears the board.
Oh, that's not the worst ever.
Old Murkai.
Yeah.
Always get old Murkai.
Yep.
All right. I have a feeling we're going to see a pretty quick concede here from Lemurian.
Not going to do much
They're
there.
already staring at 20 damage. And none of that's going to help too much. I mean, you can, so if you Fireball Ping, does that buy you a turn on Neptulon? Because then you've got 8, you got 13 damage facing. And all he needs, which we can already see, is 1 more damage. So Defender of Argus does it. Grimscale Oracle does it. Murkai does it.
He can try, but...
Yeah, I guess it's worth the try. I mean, you're here at this tournament. You might as well go hard and not give up until, you're actually beaten.
Yep. Maybe see what your opponent got from Neptulon.
There you go. Just for
Curiosity.
the entertainment of it, yeah.
The old Murkai finish.
Old Murkai.
Style
Doing it with
points.
class.
All right. Ties it up.
Yep, there it is. Going to 1-1.
Yeah.
All right, so looks like we could be in for a heck of a match here in the winner's match of Group A.
Yeah.
Now, do you think there was any in particular turn in that game that was the real giant momentum swing? I mean, it seems obvious that it was the Lightning Storm.
Yeah.
But that also seems like just an inevitability in that match.
Maybe the top deck Hex.
Yeah.
I mean, you can never count on Tyrion coming from Unstable Portals, but
right.
One of the reasons why Mech Mages put Unstable Portal in sometimes is just to get that variability, that those games where you just win because of you drawing into something impressive from that.
Sure.
I think there was some turns where Lemurian could have made some better choices. Like in particular, early on in the match, I think he could have played the mechs quicker instead of going with the Unstable Portal first.
Okay.
Built the board first, maybe bid it out an earlier Lightning Storm, so it didn't come later when his board was more vulnerable.
Right.
Or playing the Archmage Antonidas on curve.
Right.
You sometimes have to take risks when you're playing faster decks like that, but I really don't fully disagree with any of the choices that he made. It was just... Tom came out ahead.
Yeah, certainly there's merit to all the choices. I would have liked to have seen Tyrion just actually laid down right on turn 5 with a greetings emoted too, just to see the reaction. Because I can't remember exactly what he played on the turn. So if he did play Tyrion, I can't remember what Tom had out, but I remember it would have slowed Tyrion down before the Hex came.
Yeah. It was double Feral Spirits, and that's the turn that he plays the Goblin Blast Mages.
Right.
Or the Goblin Blast Mage and floated a mana.
Right.
I mean, you can't really... Tyrion wouldn't have had that much of an impact, but
Yeah, he ultimately would have just gotten Hex the next turn anyway.
Exactly.
You know, but at least maybe he would have killed. Maybe he would have killed the Spirit Wolf on his way out.
There you go.
You know, he takes something down with him,
Yeah.
other than just getting turned into a 0/1 frog. So now, of the decks left, what are you expecting? Oh, well, here we go. It's going to be Druid versus the Mage.
Druid versus Mage.
Yeah.
Oh, look how smart I am. I mean, you said it earlier. A lot of times, players just have the tendency. I think you said Firebat said the players just have the tendency to stay with the same deck.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times, that's the smarter thing to do, unless you're really trying to mind games your opponent, and they're gonna. You have a huge hard counter on the other side. You think your opponent thinks you're gonna stay the same, so you switch to catch them off guard. But there's really no super counter decks here, except maybe Mech Mage. This matchup, I guess, would be one of the ones.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to predict. You have to know your opponent inside and out to be able to try and mind games them like that.
Right. And it's also really hard to say anytime you're up against a Druid, because there's always that opportunity for them to just get that dream draw, you know, where they wild growth early. They've also got an Innervate in hand, and then you're up against some sort of a huge threat. And he's already got the Wild Growth and the Keeper. Keeper being one of those really important anti-aggro cards in the Druid arsenal.
Yeah. Druid doesn't have any terrible matchups.
Yeah.
It's got some good ones, and it's got some not so good ones.
Some sort of weak ones.
But, like, the worst matchup for Druid is like 60-40.
Right.
And that might be like a Mech Mage. Just because if a Mech Mage is allowed to build a board, Druids don't have a lot of removal for a lot of mid-sized creatures.
Mm-hmm.
They have some removal for big creatures, like they tech in BGH, or silence for some big creatures. They can swipe in Wrath to clean up a board a little bit.
Sure.
But a lot of times, the higher health mechs, like they're usually lower attack, higher health.
Yeah.
And the sticky mechs, like Piloted Shredder, are really tough for Druids to deal with. But this is a really great hand because he can. Well, I don't know. It's a little bit awkward.
Well, so right now he has to silence this unless he's going to absolutely allow the Mech Mage to potentially go completely out of hand against him.
Yeah, but this seems...
But it doesn't feel very good to do it. But look at his hand. He has to. Are you going to just Wild Growth right there? And then next turn you'd be facing a 2-mana Spider Tank.
He's going to run out of cards.
Mm-hmm.
Because next turn he's going to have to Zombie Chow and Hero Power to be able to clean up this Mech Warper.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
Talk about value.
Oh, jeez. Well, you can't always get Tyrion.
No, not every time.
That's a lesson.
Yeah, throw him down. Why not?
Yeah, he'll gobble up maybe a Hero Power.
Yeah, he'll
a hit from a Zombie Chow. Probably one of the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for a Mech Mage. I mean, I'm thinking, so technically you could get a Wisp.
Yeah. A Wisp would probably even be better. Because you can bring a Wisp back to your hand and play it for less. With whatever that... I can't think of the spare part name
You can't
right
play it for less than 0, man. There's no getting mana
less
back.
than you'd be able to play with the Timberwolf for.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's Time Rewinder, potentially.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. You're so wise for remembering the name Time Rewinder.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know. I guess that's karma for bringing out the Tyrion in the last game. But, I mean, the good thing that Tom is doing here is he's actually drawing into things that he can play. A lot of the times, if you have like a Wild Growth Innervate start, you're just drawing to dead cards.
Right.
You have more mana to work with. He didn't even use a Wild Growth, but you're just drawing to like heavy cards that you can't even play.
Mm-hmm.
You'll fall far behind. But he's drawing into the Shade. He's got 5 mana next turn. He can play Loatheb or Harrison. So he's staying even.
Yeah.
Or a little bit ahead.
Now, it turns out Lemurian does have those Clockwork Gnomes, so he is really heavy on the 1-drops in this deck. He's got Cogmaster. He's got the Mana Worm. And he's got Clockwork Gnomes, all filling up the 1 slot.
And Tinkertown Technician. So that means he's cutting...
That's a lot of mechs you cut.
Probably Mechanical Yeti, probably cut. He's also got Dr. Broom. We saw in one of his mulligans.
Okay, that's right.
Which is pretty standard, but sometimes they'll cut cut it to get a little bit of a faster deck.
Pretty nice, by the way, to pop a mech out of your piloted shredder.
I didn't even notice that. I mean, he could have played Clockwork Gnome to activate it, but now this opens up room for him to, like, he could clear off the Loatheb here with his hero power.
Yeah, he can.
Make use of that, Timberwolf.
There you go.
Put him to work.
He lives to fight another day. Winds
Sacrifice
up
him.
having some sort of an impact. Oh, but he's not going to do that. I think he might just empty his hand, or as much as he can here. Just go full out for it. Kind of dare your opponent to have a swipe.
Yeah, and I mean, in this situation, if he does have a swipe, you're basically putting the Druid in the same spot because you'd be doing the same amount of damage to the Loatheb because he'd be trading into it. You're just putting more damage to his face.
Right.
So forcing him to make the trade is probably better.
Okay.
Actually, it is better.
And by hanging on to the Clockwork Gnome, too, he's probably thinking about swipe.
Yeah.
Thinking, I've got a big, juicy 4/4 right there. If I put this Clockwork Gnome now, there's also a couple 1/1s or 1 health minions out there.
Whoa, that's intense.
Thaurissan. I had no idea.
Yeah.
You're so angry.
See, it's a silence effect. I turned around for a second. I was like, oh, it's a Keeper of the Grove. Nope.
No.
No, he's got the Finicky Cloak Field, which is fantastic for the Archmage.
Exactly.
The AMA. The Archmage Antonitis. I saw someone call it that on Reddit the other day.
Yeah? Nice. That's not confusing at all.
Nope, not at all. It's like, why would you do that?
So I guess right here you Frostbolt, Loatheb, and then run your Tinkertown and your Puppy into Thaurissan here. Why are you aiming that at your own minion? That's never going to work.
Next level. Yeah, ping. I think you just sacrifice the Mana Worm here.
Yeah.
And then ping and Timberwolf.
Ping and Puppy there.
It's hard to say whether or not he wants to keep the Mana Worm or the Cogmaster. Cogmaster represents more damage immediately, but over time the Mana Worm's going to represent more damage. So
yeah,
I like that
the potential is higher there.
He's at 15 health.
Yeah, he's already gotten him pretty low.
Oh no, double Savage Roar and Wild Growth in his hand.
Wow. All right. Gosh, so the double Savage Roar, Force of Nature, is 20 damage?
22 damage.
22 damage.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's... he's going to have to start finding a way to win this board back and whittle him down a bit.
Yeah. He would have to have an Innervate for that still, though.
Yeah.
Because it would be 11 mana total. Oh, he does have Mechanical Yetis. What is he even cutting?
He cut? Yeah,
he has
and then
Paladin
he's got
Shredders, too.
Black Knights in there? Maybe he's just got one copy of a lot of these cards.
I don't know.
Which seems kind of crazy.
Because he's got Paladin Shredder too. I know for a fact he wouldn't be running Harvest Golems because he has Spider Tank in that 3 slot. Doesn't have any other room in that 3 slot. Wow. I'm going to have to ask him.
All right. Well, Lemurian's setting up for a win here. That is not an out.
Well,
I mean,
no, it's not.
Yeah, because he'd have to double Savage Roar just to give his own face 4 damage to deal. Well, I guess he could Savage Roar Hero Power. That gives him 3, which allows him to kill the Mana Worm. And then he can kill the Yeti.
Nope, he's dead.
But then he's dead. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And he concedes out, and Tom falls down.
Yep. All right, Lemurian going up 2-1. Now he's just got to find a way to get a win with his Warlock.
Okay, so he's the Leroy player.
That's right.
The real man. So we'll have to see exactly how he pieces together those combos. His Warlock is actually more of a traditional Warlock.
Right.
It unlike Luffy's, I believe that we saw earlier, which was all-in combo, like Implosion, similar to that Darquanix combo lock that we saw a couple months ago. No Giants whatsoever, no Moltens or Mountains. But, of course, we've seen Lemurians, and it's very heavy on Giants. It's got Molten Mountains, and it just has Leroy as sort of a win condition with Faceless. Also has a Power Overwhelming. So
versus Freeze Mage and versus the Druid that we just saw, how do you feel about those matchups for the more traditional hand luck? Now, we did see Leroy, of course, but other than that, we have no reason to believe it's any sort of a really hard combo.
Yeah. Well, Freeze Mage is just really good against Handlock. because all of Handlock's damage comes from their board, and they're getting themselves low for you.
Right.
So a lot of times you just have to draw into a little bit of damage to be able to kill them off. There are some big plays that they can make with like Lotheb later on, where they make a giant board, then Lotheb, and then pop your blocker coup the next turn.
Mm-hmm.
But Lemurian really wanted to dodge that matchup, and again, Tom knows that he's got to win with the Druid anyway.
Right.
It's going to be the harder one of the two, even though it's not really necessarily hard.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes with that one first.
All right, makes sense. Yeah, I'm also wondering to myself right now, what is Leroy in this lock for?
I must protect
Winning.
Well, obviously. I think that goes without saying, but when with a handlock do you find yourself in a situation where it's like, oh, it's if I just had that extra 6 damage? It's more like, no, I'm going to hit you for 24 this turn. You know, so deal with that.
He wants to be able to
There's Leroy.
utilize his mortal coils more efficiently by giving his opponent 1/1s.
I love it.
He's been playing ladder a lot, and all of his opponents have been playing around mortal coil, and he's fed up.
Yeah.
I'll give myself my own mortal coils.
So coin wild growth here, right? Because then it fits your curve just really well.
Yep.
Got the follow-up with the Shade, the Keeper the turn after that. Couple draws to figure out something that feels better than Harrison, maybe.
Yeah, he's trying to think if this is a slow matchup overall. So he's trying to think, can I leverage this coin later on? Is delaying my wild growth by 1 turn going to hurt me that much? And I actually... No, it's not.
Yeah,
either way,
sorry, go ahead.
he's trying to set up a way so that he can Keeper and Hero Power on the same turn to kill a Twilight Drake.
Mm-hmm.
And either way, it lines up on the same turn, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He won't be able to do it either way.
And I never feel good sometimes when I decide to hang on to the coin and just play Wild Growth on turn 2, if I've got a Shade in hand, because then Shade never winds up being played on my curving.
Exactly. And getting it out earlier puts it out of Hellfire range quicker.
Yep.
If he had played it this turn, then the next turn it would have been in Hellfire range. And
Ooh,
feisty.
yeah, that's
I don't like it.
I don't know if I agree with that either.
Because next turn he would have had a nice Keeper of the Grove Innervate Hero Power for the inevitable Twilight Drake.
Yeah.
He might have been afraid of a Giant this turn.
Mm-hmm.
But even then.
Yeah, because now you pretty much you have to keep her against this.
Yeah.
And then what are you going to use to trade into it? I guess you just get some
Gross.
Oh.
That physically hurt me.
Yeah, I think in that situation, I most likely would have, at least at that point, just gone to the face with Harrison.
He traded an Innervate, a Harrison Jones, and the Silence from a Keeper of the Grove for a Twilight Drake. One Twilight Drake.
That's rough.
It was necessary, but those are the types of awkward situations that Druids can find themselves in this matchup that puts them really far behind. Because now what if another Twilight Drake comes out? What is he going to do?
Well, it's either that or a Belcher on this turn.
I would actually... Oh, okay. He's going to Zombie Chow as well. If he didn't have a Zombie Chow in his hand, I would have 100% Belcher.
Oh, yeah.
But you want to get the Zombie Chow out early because it trades better against creatures that are played earlier, and you don't want to give him that heal later on. So you never want to have Zombie Chow sitting as a dead card in your hand.
All right, hanging on to the Wild Growth and choosing to clear the Chow.
He's going to keep that puppy stealth.
Yeah.
Until he can just kill him.
Yeah.
Little does he know,
Alright.
though.
Think it's time for Thaurissan.
Reduce that Leroy.
That's right.
He only needs one piece of that combo reduced in order to effectively use it. And it's more consistent of a combo if you think about it in the way that you only need one power overwhelming. Less consistent of a combo when you think about it that you need Emperor Thaurissan to come before all the rest of those cards.
Wow, a 4-mana Leroy.
Wow, that's overpowered. Man, imagine if Leroy costs 4 mana. Every game. What would we even do?
The possibilities would be endless.
Hearthstone would be broken.
All right, moving right along here. We're going to probably see a Sludge Belcher tap.
Oh, man. People that didn't play Hearthstone like 5 months ago are like, what are these guys even going on about? Oh, that Shade's just getting...
God, he's getting huge.
Aside from a Giant and a Shadow Flame in the next 2 turns,
Yeah.
that Shade's
It's going to
just
survive everything. Yeah, except that Siphon Soul when he finally reveals it. But I have a feeling you're right. By the time he finally reveals it, it's going to be when it's enough to kill him in one swipe.
It's going to be a 30-30. Both players are going to be out of cards. It's going to be like, oh, yeah, I have a Shade on the board.
Wow. All right, so you got to be starting to get pretty scared of that Shade at this point.
Yeah.
Even if you put your Belcher down right now as Lemurian, you can already see what kills it.
Yeah.
And then that Shade just sits there and remains.
Yeah.
And
well,
then,
yeah, Hellfire Sludge Belcher is a pretty decent play here.
Yeah, I mean, that is what you kind of have to do. You're also coming up on turn 9. You know, which of course is that turn against Druid.
Yeah. Actually, if he didn't taunt, he would have been 1 off lethal. But the Rag top
The
deck,
Ragnaros.
that's not even the old Rag. That's just like, well, I don't got anything else to play.
That's just a pretty legit Ragnaros.
Yep.
Yeah, fair enough.
And he's just so patient with that Shade.
Yeah, amazing. I cannot say I wouldn't have swung with it just ages ago.
Yeah. I mean, he gets handlock. I guess it's a little better.
Oh, he does have power overwhelmings in there. Okay.
All right, well, if you draw... Okay, so the Leroy power overwhelming faceless is 20 damage.
Yeah. Still don't see the faceless.
Yeah, but
It's got to be
he's at
in
22 health.
there. Yeah.
And I know that Tom's not going to be thinking... He's seen Giants. He's seen Twilight Drakes. Or he hasn't seen Giants.
No.
But he's seen Twilight Drakes and Ancient Watchers, which I...
All says handlock.
Yeah. He's thinking, he's not going to do 20 damage in a turn. I'll hero power this.
Oh, man. Is it time to swing? When else are you gonna?
I don't think so. Because he's been through both Sludge Belchers. Unless there's a big wall, he's just going to keep him out of Molten Giant range.
Oh, man.
He is actually within, or will be...
So it'd be
He's
11 plus 14. Yeah,
He's within lethal
He's
range.
within lethal range now.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if he swings or not.
Wow.
Well, it does matter. He doesn't want to swing.
Right.
Because he just doesn't want to give him Moltens.
And now, with staring at a 9-6, you've got to be aware of that. Okay, so now you set up a big taunt wall then.
Yep.
Just another huge taunt wall. That's...
No, he's
Ooh.
not. It's better to not set it up this turn because you want more targets for your taunts.
Okay.
Because right now he's out of lethal range from just a combo.
Yeah, or maybe he's hoping to set up Shadow Flame as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, he does have it. He actually could have... No, he couldn't have used it because he tapped. Because it would have been, yeah. No, he actually could have used it last turn.
Yeah. So now if you're Lemurian, do you see that Giant and then immediately start thinking, wow, I better at least get something
Yeah.
and start swinging then?
Yeah.
I must safeguard the land.
Oh, wow. He's going to take... Wait.
I think that just did it.
No, he doesn't.
Leroy
It is.
and
Defender
power
Vargas.
overwhelming. Yeah. There it is.
That's
so
it.
that's going to make it 9, and then Leroy will be 11. 20 damage.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow. He's going to see the Leroy?
Does he see it? Okay, he has to see it. Wait, he's counting. He's counting.
Okay.
He's just counting. He knows he's got it.
He's doing the old...
Yeah, just counting it 17 times
20,
until the rope
21.
shows up just to make sure.
Wait, got to start over. 22, 23. All right.
There
Power
it is.
overwhelming. Perfect lethal.
Perfect
11
lethal.
damage, and he takes
Nice.
the series
And
with that.
a look of relief and a smile from him.
Wow.
Can't help but feel good for Lemurian here, getting through a really stacked group to make it into the semifinals tomorrow.
Wow.
He went up against 2 BlizzCon players today as a relatively unknown guy and came out in first place. I'm impressed.
And 3-0, 3-1.
Yeah.
That's just really impressive. And this was the guy that we knew the least about.
Yep.
The guy that doesn't have teams, told me he didn't really have any notable practice partners. The guy that's a pharmacy student says he just tries to play Hearthstone when he can, outside of his studies.
Yeah.
Just really impressive performance.
Yeah, and it seems like he really cleaned it up, too, in the second match, in the winner's match versus Tom.
For sure, yeah.
You know, even though, like we said earlier, he beat Kalento 3-0, that doesn't tell the entire story. There was still some questionable judgment calls that were made there, or maybe just some straight-up mistakes. But he really cleaned up the play, and again, he goes out of Group A up 2-0.
Yeah.
Guaranteed into the semifinals.
Yeah, and you can see the Group A breakdown for the day, since we're done with Group A matches for today. Luffy was the player eliminated, 0-2. We won't be seeing any more of him. He will have a chance to qualify for the LAN finals at the end of the season. All the players are entered into a giant Swiss pool, so we will be seeing more of him, at least at some point. Kalento and Tom will both have to play elimination matches tomorrow. And Lemurian just automatically gets seeded into the semifinals with his 2-0. So
impressive.
That's how Group A shook out.
All right. Yeah, wow. I don't think looking at this group, when we knew that this was the group, that this result would have been remotely possible.
Yeah.
I'm looking at probably Kalento first, Tom second.
Yeah.
You know,
Luffy elimination match.
Yeah.
But Lemurian really showed up, making a name for himself.
Absolutely.
Impressive stuff.
That's one of the things I love the most, too, about Hearthstone, really, sort of as an esport, as a competitive game, too, is it's always sort of anybody's game. You know, like you said, consistency over a long period of time makes the huge difference. But in any given match, anybody's got a chance versus even Kaleno.
Yeah, and you got to, I mean, consistency, Lemurian has showed it because he made it to the Challenger Cup.
Yep.
So he won, 10 best of fives plus 2 best of fives today. He's really proven himself, and he'll have to prove himself even more tomorrow because I'm sure going to semifinals and finals tomorrow, he's going to have a tough time.
That's right. So that does it for today for Group A. Now, before we go, we do want to thank our sponsors, of course. That's Plantronics and Gigabyte. Keep supporting us by supporting those companies, getting some of their products, their motherboards, their headsets. They're really great products. And, of course, keep those tweets coming. That's using the hashtag HLS at ESL Hearthstone. So Group A isn't completely finished just yet. Tomorrow, there will be the elimination match between Kalento and Tom to determine who else makes it to the semifinal. But coming up after the next break, we're going to start Group B action, featuring the mayor of Valuetown himself. It's Trump.
Yeah, Group B, if we said Group A was stacked. Group B is
just as stacked.
Just as stacked, if not more stacked. So Group B will be some awesome games.
All right, well, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Put your faith in the light.